just as an interesting point, what this switch does is it brings, and I just turned on,
Yep.
brings 220 volts into here. And the reason being because if I chose to use the what's called a linear amplifier, which amplifies the signal out of the basic unit, it takes 220 volts because it's what it does is it ups the amperage of your output signal to the antenna to 1,000 watts. And it's just, if you just use this transceiver here, transceiver meaning it's a transmitter and a receiver, it's 100 watts.
Yeah.
But if you turn this on, then it's 1,000 watts.
Interesting. And this is just the house phone?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, all that stuff. There's another phone in here that I forgot about.
This one?
No. There's much older than this one. That Josh has already laid claims to as something he wants.
Okay.
I'm trying to think where in the heck I put it because it's not hooked up to anything.
It's just a novelty thing.
Well, I mean, it's left over from our. I mean, it was our main phone for many years, but that was a long time ago.
All right.
Mark that.
PeePaw. 20 to 9. End of halftime.
Okay.
Or start of halftime. Pittsburgh's receiving.
Okay.
And then what are these?
What this is what they call a tuner, which means it is strictly there to tune the antenna. The length of the antenna outside basically is what you're doing, electrical length, to match the frequency that you choose over here.
Okay.
See, this chooses all sorts of different frequencies
Gotcha.
of operation, and this allows you to have perfect
Quality?
well, perfect. See, the length, the type of antenna I got out back is just, it's very simple. But because it's so simple, what you have to do is have something like this, which electrically matches then that length outside to the frequency that you're using.
Okay.
There's some antennas that where you wouldn't need this because it's just the design of the antenna allows it to be electrically perfect at different frequencies.
Okay.
And this is here right now as an ornament, meaning that this was my whole station many years ago. And it's not nearly as sophisticated as that one.
As your setup that you have now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really don't use it unless I just
want to do it out of nostalgia?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's what that's for.
Okay.
And this goes with that.
Gotcha.
The way it's made, you have to put a crystal in here or here, depending on the type of crystal, and that crystal fixes the frequency that you're going to use it at.
Okay.
But if you want to have the flexibility of being able to operate at all frequencies, and then don't need this crystal, then you get this, and that's what it's called, a VFO, which is a variable frequency oscillator.
All right.
And
and it just takes the place of the crystal?
Exactly.
All right.
And the crystal is just a fixed frequency, and this is a real wide frequency range.
Right. Very cool.
And this box here is just to test, or just to show you how perfect your antenna is. See, the SWR stands for standing wave ratio.
Okay.
And what that stands for is, again, if you've got like a standing wave ratio of 1 or 1.5 or 2 or even 3 on your antenna, then that is the kind of match you're looking for between this and the antenna to get all you can get out of your station.
Okay.
But if it was up here in the higher than 3, then you're gonna have so little wattage coming off of your antenna outside that it's hardly worth even using.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's again, and just out of curiosity, these things that are real old looking, these were all kits.
Okay.
There was a company back in those days called Heath Kit was their name. They were located up in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and their whole livelihood was to sell
setups like
Heath kits. Yeah, and and you built the whole thing. In other words, there wasn't 2 parts within any one kit that was already put together. In other words, you had to follow a book. Like I'll give you an example, real simple. Like this is the manual that came with the Heath kit for the SWR meter.
Okay.
And I'll just show you what it looks like in here, because it'll be page after page after page after of putting it together.
Wow.
See, like there'll be and each one of these has got a number of printed circuit boards in it. And each printed circuit board has got 2 or more pages showing where specific parts go. Like I see R19 is that part, R18 and so forth and so on, and so it's just very, 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 very detailed instructions
on how to put it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't have any trouble doing it. I mean, once you've read it and see what the heck you're getting
once
into.
you understand what everything does.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. Exactly.
Okay.
But anyway, so and today there are still companies that make this kind of equipment in kit form, but there's many, many more that make them 100% totally done.
Ready to go?
Ready to go.
Like an all-in-one system?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this was the cheapest way to do it, back in the 70s, really, 60s and 70s.
But it was more fun as well.
Yeah, especially
just having that accomplishment.
Especially when you're only in high school. I mean, it's a lot more fun because you're not looking for the most glorious thing that ever was sold to somebody. You're looking for something that you can learn from and so forth.
And build upon.
Exactly.
Okay.
So really all this is just the amplifier, the power supply that goes with this. I mean, they're just connected together. And that's really the end of the ham radio equipment.
Okay. And then everything else is just
all this is just everything.
Files and parts and accomplishments.
I mean, this is our
Wi-Fi and
this is
cable
the
setup.
wireless cable, and this is where I always do
fix
all
stuff
my work for fixing stuff, taking things apart, and all that kind of stuff.
And then these are some of the people that you've contacted.
Yeah, that's some of them, and each one of those is up here just for a special reason. And,
okay.
Because I've got
plenty.
I mean, those boxes up there are full of
postcards and
of other people I've talked to.
Yeah.
And this is just a variety of certificates and awards that were of interest for me at one point in time. And,
when you were part of like societies and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it.
What's this thing down here?
Well, there was a point in time where I wanted to make an AM radio from nothing, and
Okay.
that's the way it ended up. That was it. And
All right.
you know, it worked fine, but I haven't used it for years. It's
Oh.
just sat there gathering
It's just
dust.
there as a novelty thing, a
Yeah.
unique little like I did this. This is what I
Right.
did.
I mean, you know, it was just fun to do at one time.
And then this is all your
Oh,
spare parts.
All this
and...
stuff is mostly test equipment.
Okay.
You know, this is a real good piece of test equipment,
Okay.
and this is a real good piece of test equipment in that it's called an oscilloscope, and you plug it in, and what you'd get on here on this screen is a trace, and if you here's the probes here that go in here and here
That you connect to the
that you connect to the
the
electrical
system
signal.
itself. Okay.
And then you can see what the signal looks like
Gotcha.
on there.
That's cool.
So, I mean, yeah.
And then all these. What are all these?
Oh God, those are all. I get a monthly magazine. called
Okay.
QST, and
that's just you
this,
putting them
yeah,
all
this
in
is
a.
just me keeping them organized.
Yeah.
So
Alright.
you know, the same thing with this. All this.
Yeah.
Up here. So.
And then all these are.
Well, again, that's just well, no, that's a lot of that is my books from college.
Okay.
Most of these are.
Oh wow.
Uh,
And then I know this one right here is labeled. This is labeled unfamiliar to me.
well, and what this is the ham radio signification. Like if you're going to make a contact with somebody in Canada, for example,
Okay.
their call sign would be VE and then some number. Like if they were in Quebec, it'd be VE2, and then it would be the final three letters would be what separates their call sign from anybody else in
Okay.
or around Quebec. And like here in Ohio, see we're 8, and United States started out as K, and then when it totally ran through all the possible K signs as you could possibly have, and they were all given out to people, then they changed it to W, and so it's either W or K. So anybody you hear is going to be a W or a K if they're from the United States. And
Alright.
8 is, mine is W8 JCR.
Okay.
And so that's just because it represents Ohio. And same everywhere. See, this is Australia, and all these are all the different
European countries.
European countries, and all the South American countries, all the African countries.
All right.
So.
And then is this just a regular map just to?
Well, it's the same kind of thing, except it's not the same kind of thing. It's really different. But I mean, it's yes, it's just a regular map, so that you can see
Where
more
exactly
easily where
everybody
like
is.
if you talk to somebody from over here somewhere, you can see exactly
Yeah.
where they're located.
That's just more out of curiosity's sake.
Well, yeah, more out of curiosity. I mean, certainly don't have to have that, but like Britain, for example.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's like the United States in the sense that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cities just all over, and so if you talk to somebody in Britain, I mean, where are they at when they say
Oxford,
say York or
yeah.
whatever? I mean, well, that's where they're at right there.
All right.
So,
Awesome.
but I made a contact, like what's today? Today's Sunday, Friday. I made a contact with a guy just in Richmond, Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And the only reason why I heard him on, And once he was finished with the guy he was talking to, then I called him and when I say talked, it means this.
Yeah.
Because I don't really use the voice method of communicating anymore. I used to do that too, but I've gotten more just that I like to do the code. And anyway, so I called him because I had talked to him several times in the last 10 years, but I hadn't for like a year or so.
All right.
So when I heard him, I just
Hopped on and catch
yeah,
up.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course, the first thing he said was, "Well, what happened to your house with all the in Tennessee where they had all the fires?"
Oh.
But
He had heard about the fires and stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's that kind of a thing. But
Very cool.
so, but I started this when I was junior in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and how did I ever even think to get started? That's a good question. I do remember that there was a guy, I can't remember his name, in my hometown that was a ham radio operator, and it could be, I know how it was. I had an uncle who lived in Chicago, Uncle Tom, and he was a ham radio operator. He's the one that actually got me started, because he, they would visit us, we would visit them as a family, and so he would tell me all about it. He would do what we're doing today, and just through that process, I got interested in it, and then things went from there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very interesting.
and then that kind of started my interest in electrical stuff or electronic stuff at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just went from there, and
All right.
I stayed interested. But
And I assume this is just similar to the system you have over there.
It's another kind of a key, yeah.
Okay.
It's that, yeah, it works that way. See, instead of going down like this does,
Uh-huh.
that does what you were just doing. Squeezing it that way makes the connection.
Okay.
And so it's just two different
types. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's just the microphone, obviously.
Right. Which again hasn't gotten much use for a while, but
Uh-huh.
nevertheless,
It's there if you want to
it's
use it.
there. Yeah,
Mhm.
and someday I might. I mean, I may get more interested in the voice method of communicating than the key, and go back to that. I don't know. I'm not going to predict what I do tomorrow or next year or whenever.
I remember you always came down to Florida with the little tiny one
Oh,
that you
yeah.
had set up, and then you'd always
Yeah.
you'd help us or we'd help you string the antenna around
Yes.
our trees and stuff.
Or I can't remember if down there, but I remember like at Susie's house that she had not in Nashville, but it was, it was Nashville. Yeah, I think it was Nashville, but not this house that they're at now, but another house where they first started in Nashville. And I put an antenna up in the attic of her
house.
so that whenever I visited them, I would not have to fuss around.
Yeah, set up
with
the whole
an
thing again.
because they would all be there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I remember doing what we did, and
I remember taking a shoebox and making my own ham radio out of it, and you taking one of those spare
Exactly.
keys to let me tap on.
Yeah, that's right. That was fun. So really, and this is just another one. And Lord and living, I have no idea. See, I've got
what all those marks are.
I got some marks on there that are obviously were special to me once upon a time, but what they are now, I don't
maybe
know.
somebody you've talked to frequently enough to keep note of, or
And this is even another one. It's like this one over on the wall over there, but it's much. I don't know what is it about this one that maybe
That interested you.
have this. I don't know. Trying to
could
see.
just be the topology, seeing all the mountains and stuff, and
It's something.
maybe trying to understand why sometimes signals couldn't get to where you were wanting to get. I don't know.
It was. it's you know, like if you well, see this, I don't know what they call this kind of map, but you know, this where it's like global.
Yeah, it's
in
trying to get all the
nature,
countries versus.
as opposed to this. See, is like straight across, west to
Okay.
east.
Maybe just different
north to
ways of
south.
viewing the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably two types of maps that got a special name, but.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when I was into this stuff, you know, I spent many hours a week on this stuff.
Oh yeah, you can see the projection right there. Modified equidistant something or another.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just a different projection just
see,
based off
they
the
even
need.
got on here, like for example, on this map, it says world time zones. So, yeah, see, these are the time zones, like through here, and of course that goes all around the world in terms of time zones. So, and that's why it had some significance to the radio world was because you could see the time difference also to the person you're talking to.
Yeah. And I know
this doesn't have anything about time zones on it. It's just
other than
just
the
a map.
very basic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I know the space station, the ISS, International Space Station, has a whole ham radio thing set up so you can hear them talking. Have you talked with them?
I've heard them.
You've heard them?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
but
cool.
I've never talked to them
Okay.
because they use a frequency that I don't really
view often. Okay.
It's in fact, I've got a radio upstairs that's a handheld radio that does cover their frequencies. And
I assume it's a
how-
government-controlled frequency.
That's how I did it. Well, everything associated with radio
Is
controlled by
Yeah.
the government. I mean, everything.
because I know you remember telling me that there are some frequencies that you're not allowed to communicate through because they're more for emergency vehicles or something similar to that sort.
I am pretty sure we're leaving.
Oh, we're leaving? All right. Well, thank you for showing me the tour.
Thank you very much.